Hello, everybody. My name is Dami, and I'm from Nigeria. So back in 2021, while I was still in Nigeria, I was very sick, and I was taken to the hospital. But on getting to the hospital, I had to wait for about 8 hours. And after the whole waiting, I finally got to see a doctor that was grumpy and all irritable. So you mean I have been waiting for about 8 hours to meet a grumpy doctor? I was upset because I was sick and in pain, and I quite confronted him about the situation. And guess his response? His response was to point to a huge pile of patients' case notes that he has been attending to. He told me in the last 6 months, over 8 doctors have left this hospital to seek greener pastures outside the country. So the bulk of the work is on my shoulder. I'm sorry if I'm not able to, smile with you and all that. The WHO, in one of its studies, estimates that by 2030, there will be a global shortage of health workers. And sub-Saharan Africa is going to be the hardest hit because of the global shortage. And this global shortage is exemplified by the physician population density ratio. As you can see, the number of doctors, nurses, and dentists in Nigeria and Malawi are ridiculously small. And this number is similar in most African countries. I can pull up 5, 10 African countries, and the numbers would still be similar. Compare it to what we have in the US. So if you think the US health system is crappy, you don't want to find yourself in Malawi or Kenya. These numbers are ridiculously small. 0.5 physicians for 10,000. That means there's just one doctor to attend to 20,000 people in Malawi. But when health workers migrate, these numbers get smaller. And the effect is that the vulnerable population being left behind, they don't have access to health care. But what makes health workers' migration more problematic is not necessarily the numbers, but because there is a clash of rights involved. When health workers migrate, they exercise their freedom of movement. I believe everybody in this auditorium came they exercised their freedom of movement. You wouldn't want to be in a position where you are constrained with your movement. So health workers, when they move, they exercise their freedom of movement. But the problem is that when they move, their movement affects the vulnerable population's access to health care. When health workers are unavailable, populations do not have access to health care, and it indirectly affects the health outcomes. The maternal health, child health, all this becomes very low. Also, health workers' migration causes loss of investment for their countries. Health workers have been trained by the governments of their countries. Now, these countries are impoverished already. They are not rich, and yet they spend a lot of money to train their health workers. You can see Kenya spends about $36,000 to train just one health worker, one physician. Nigeria spends about the same, and Malawi spends about $34,000. These countries are not rich, but they invest in their health workers. But yet, when health workers leave, this investment goes down the drain. So we have a conflict. There is the right to freedom of movement, but at the same time, we have inability to access healthcare and loss of investment. The question is, what should be done. And I think the first step to take is dialogue. Imagine a situation whereby representatives of healthcare workers, representatives from the government, health policy experts, physicians, political philosophers, economists, they come to the dialogue table to talk about this problem and the way forward. The goal of this dialogue should be to reach a consensus on the best policy to adopt to resolve this clash. This would lead us to the next step, which is policy implementation. After there has been a sincere dialogue among the major stakeholders, then we can begin to talk about the best policies to adopt. Some of the policies that can be adopted include compulsory service. This is a program whereby health workers sign an agreement with their government to stay back for some years in exchange for government funding. But the unique thing with this program is that it has to come with health workers' consent. Another program that can be adopted is tax programs. Tax program is a program whereby health workers pay a certain amount of money as exit tax to their government. This is necessary to offset the investment that has been made. Then another program that can be adopted is the secular migration. This allows a certain degree of legal mobility for health workers. They can move across borders, maybe move to the US for some years and then return back to their country. These are policies that can be adopted, but these policies will only be successful when there is a sincere dialogue among the major stakeholders. And this is what my research is about. I have the hope that our governments in Africa would be able to engage in this dialogue with their health workers, with health policy experts to reach a consensus. Nobody deserves to see a grumpy doctor, and everyone deserves access to healthcare regardless of your location. But it is only when there is a sincere dialogue and an adoption of generally agreed upon policies that this problem of health workers' migration can be resolved. Thank you very much for listening.